Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are going to dig into parenting today. If you found us, no doubt you typed in some of those keywords: becoming a parent, dealing with some of the challenges of being a parent. Lots to talk about today. And she is somebody that helps people with these challenges all the time. Where was she when I needed her? When I became a parent, the instruction manual, they didn't send it to me. I was checking the mailbox. It wasn't there. Back then, it was a mailbox. There was no email. I didn't get the manual of being a parent. So we're going to talk about that today. She is a fantastic psychologist, a renowned author, and part of this all comes from her book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. Dr. Ann Creekmore is back with us. How are you doing today?
Great, Steve. How are you?
Really good. And the first thought I had here, talking about being a parent, when you're about to become a parent for the first time, it's this fear. Like, I don't know, how do I do this? How do I navigate through this? How do I deal with situations when they present themselves? And as parents, you figure it out along the way. But before somebody even considers becoming a parent, you have a section in here about questions one should ask themselves. And I think it's very important.
That came from the idea partly from some research that was done about working moms. And I believe it's mentioned in there. It's a book by, I think it's Arlene Russo Cardozo, or vice versa. It's been a while since I've looked at that, but it was an excellent book called Sequencing, Having It All, but Not Having It All at Once. And the research that they showed was how mothers who have children under school age actually really, stay kind of mentally intact, not super stressed out, overwhelmed, really can only work about 10 hours per week, or really have 10 extracurricular hours. That could even be including the 3 times you go to the gym, or a social lunch or something. And so really it's almost nothing. It's not even quarter time working. And then once your children are over, into school age, then women seem to be satisfied and comfortable in their lives, able to, not feel so stressed out if they do maybe part-time work, like 20 hours a week. And so iterations when you're thinking about having children, just like you said, we don't get any manual. I mean, we get a lot of training, right? We have to go through in order to get our license to drive a car, and all this preparation and tests and so on. But here we are doing probably the most important job of our entire lives, having children and raising children. And there's been no manual whatsoever, no warning. It's like a rude awakening. It's like at first when they're not even sleeping at night, you're not even getting basic sleep with newborns. So here, the idea, if you could kind of think ahead and say, well, wait a minute, can I work it out financially, which you can, so that I can be at home and enjoy those mothering years or fathering years who happens to be at home, because it could be either one these days or both, sharing. And before you kind of dive in and then you're completely over your head trying to work full time and then not able to even, get proper sleep so you can work, let alone do your second job that you rush home to do.
I bring back a memory. Somebody I'm connected to, he had just finished getting divorced. He now has a 2, maybe 3-year-old, and he's with somebody now. They're not married, and he just found out he and she are expecting. And he announced it to us and the rest of our group. And part of him was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then the other part of him was like, I'm good. She's a good person. I see myself with her for a long time. He was right in the middle of the finance part of it. How am I going to deal with this? The logistics of having another child and all of that. And I said to him, listen, you're young. I want to say he's like 37 somewhere. I was like, you're good. You're in a good place right now. Don't tap the brakes. You'll be okay. It's all going to work out.
Right.
And Right. That's the one
That was
thing.
good. That positive self-talk is everything, really, because then you can feel you got the energy and the wherewithal to keep your, focus and do well. So
If I yourself, it would be, I would say to myself, it'll all work out. And my mom used to say that all the time. And of course, when you're younger, you don't believe it. And even when you get older, until you start experiencing it, especially, and I know you even talk about addressing money challenge in parenting in your book.
Yes.
That's one of those things. And I know it's a hard one to swallow when you're in the thick of it, because, things will change monetarily in your life, but somehow it has a way of working out.
It really can. You don't want to come from a poverty consciousness. You want to come from the idea that, you are provided for and that it will work out, and be open to how that can work out. And in these cases, I can share a story about one of my clients many years ago. She was considering going back to work. I think she had 3 young children, and they may have been starting some of them into school. And so she had this idea of this job she's going to get. I think it was like a phlebotomist, at the hospital or something like. I felt like she was already overwhelmed, with what she was doing anyway. So I said, well, let's look at your budget. Could you possibly continue to, not work full time? And so, because that's part of it, just to look at your budget, put everything down. Mm-hmm. And then you find when you look at your budget, there's things you just don't need anyway, or something you can do instead. But this was really interesting. When we sat down with her budget, and we added everything up, because she was going to have to make quite a few changes. She's going to have to get uniforms. She's going to have to pay gas. She's going to have to pay daycare, which is very expensive, right? She before was at home and she had no daycare expenses for 3 children, and so on. And it turned out with the amount that and then she'll pay taxes, of course, on what she brings in, et cetera. Well, when we figured it out at the very end, she literally was going to make $17 a week working full time. But after she had to take out all those other expenses.
Wow.
I know. So it's worth looking at the finances to figure out what can you do and what are, these expenses, and also there's more hidden expenses when you're working full time. You have to think, hey, I can't fix a nice meal. I may have to stop and get food on the run I can't do it every night to make this a more economical meal, or maybe a healthier meal. I may be picking up fast foods. If the kids are in daycare, are they going to be sick a lot? Of course, they're going to be more exposed than if they were in a family care or you're taking care of them at home. Then you got more doctor's bill and you got time at the doctors. There's hidden costs as well. So when you think about it, it may well be possible to work it out, to work part-time and still make ends meet just as well, and live. And then you get to enjoy your motherhood or fatherhood, your parenthood more.
There is a way to work out everything. And
absolutely,
what comes to mind immediately, personal situation, I look at my mom, single mom, since I was like a year old, have a sister, a twin. Mm-hmm. And I look back in amazement. I said, I think, how did she pull that one off? She bought a house. She worked her butt off. And then when I was in high school in 12th grade, somehow she finagled it that she was able to leave work, pick me up from home, drive me to my first radio job at 17.
Oh,
she would drop me off, go home. It was about a 15-minute drive each way, at least. Drop me off. And then when it was time for me to leave the radio station, she would come back, pick me up, take me home. I wake up in the morning, go to school. She would go to work, rinse and repeat for months, until I got another bigger job. But I look back on all of that, and I guess that's the testament to it'll all work out. Like, I don't know how she pulled that off.
Well, it was good she was saying that to herself, right? Because it helped her to feel motivated.
Well, yeah,
because she had that attitude. It can happen. I can do it. and she really was pulling something off. That's amazing. And it's also a demo. She sounds wonderful. It's wonderful that she, so nice. And she kind of epitomizes what I consider to be so important when you're approaching parenthood. In order to create a healthy personality in your child, healthy, person, you really have to be devoted, and she was showing that devotion. And look at you now. I mean, you've been doing these radio shows on like the top 1.5% of podcast business network, right? And she's part of that. The fact that she would make that, time and effort and be devoted to you and get you to your first show and really, give you that backup support. It helped, obviously. And look at you now.
And I do that for my kids. And when, you take your advice from your parents, and, I'd always say, young and I hear, it'll all work out. It'll all work out. And I'm like, you're old. What do you know? Now I'm old. But here's the scary part. I just have an epiphany, talking about parenthood and career. I've been doing this career and I hit a milestone this year. I'm not even going to tell you the number. I will say this though. The amount of years I've been doing this, I was about, if you take those years, that's and add like 3, that's when I last became a parent. Whoa. Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, it's worked out.
You know what?
It's all worked out.
It all worked out. And we all have challenges, life all the time.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back and love what you said a moment ago about finances. Becoming a parent in this day and age, we have a lot going on, a lot of changes every single day. If you watch, the news,
Yes.
Financially, it can be challenging, at least to the mental aspect of us.
Mm-hmm.
But you said, pretty much, I'll paraphrase, don't come from a place of lack because, and I think I know where you're going with that. Many of us say, I don't have enough money. How am I going to afford a new car? I need a new car. How is that even going to work? I'm never going to have enough money. Well, universally, energetically, even in terms of manifestation, many believe if you believe that, that's what you're going to get. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. That's what you're putting out, your thoughts and prayers, your intentions. Mm-hmm.
As opposed to flipping it around and saying, yeah, it's going to work out, or yeah, I need a new car. There's some way there'll be a way that I get that car.
Absolutely.
I deserve it. I work hard. We need it for our family. Somehow we're going to figure this out. And magically, and I've heard story after story, somehow money comes along. Some way, something changes. But coming from a place of positivity, I know it's not always easy, as opposed to coming from a place of lack.
Absolutely. I can share a personal story that when my kids were little, we didn't have a fence in our backyard and they were little and we had a little playground and different things out there. And I really thought, now, old enough, especially the boy, the younger, who needs a little more structure, the girl could go out, but the older. But so I wanted to get a fence, and I felt like, where am I going to get this money? Because even back then, like that fence was like $3,000 or something. And then I was talking to my parents. Said, you know what? Hey, we got you this little life insurance, Gerber thing that, you could look, it's supposed to have accrued some money. I didn't even know I had it, right? It was good to find out I had it in the first place by discussing it. Well, wouldn't you know, it had in it the exact price of what the person wanted to build the fence. It was right there. When I not coming from that, but coming from the prosperity rather than the lack. And it just shows up.
I love that. And you just reminded me of a fence story myself.
Oh, cool.
Wanted a fence. I had bought this house and then kids came along and it's like, they're running around the backyard, really, really need a fence. Can't afford it. Out of nowhere, somebody approaches the radio station and says, you know what? We'd like to have somebody do endorsements. So they reached out to me. And I wound up doing endorsements for the fence company and got a really, really wonderful discount. I was essentially still working for it.
Right.
It wasn't like, here's a free fence, but it was the means to buy it.
Absolutely. It's like you had the need and you were provided for.
Came out of nowhere, just like you
Right.
said, the life insurance or whatever.
And so, for all the people that are religious or spiritual, that's what we've been told. We are provided for. And if we can just be open and not block it with our own negative thinking, it'll show up and we can just receive it and get what we need.
Yeah. Don't question it. Just say cool when it shows up.
Right. Hey, it's perfect.
Yeah,
It's exactly now. Here you go.
And most importantly, be thankful and grateful. Don't just say, well, I needed that. Say thank you to universe, whatever it is. I'm grateful and I appreciate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because many believe that if you are grateful, the universe says, oh, they like that. Let me give them more because they appreciate it. And that's what they want.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it.
How do we, as a parent, especially even a new parent trying to figure this all out, how do you balance your life, your time, your personal, the aspect of you, and now having kids? Because a lot of women will say this. They kind of lost themselves in becoming a parent. Yes, it was wonderful. Everything was great. However, no time for the gym, no time to take care of me, no me time. How do you strike that balance? And also, I think a part of it is, releasing the guilt in doing it.
Absolutely. And just about the guilt, you ask yourself 2 questions to see if it's good guilt, that your conscience is pricking you to do something, or it's just bad guilt to release. And for good guilt would be like, 1, am I breaking a promise? Like you want to stick to your promises, keep your word. 2, am I doing something unethical? I'm doing something criminal, Well, you don't want to do that. So that's things pricking your conscience. But beyond that, if you answer no to those questions, you've got to talk to yourself and say, wait a minute, I got to let that go to the universe, as you said, and it's bad guilt. So, really, to take time for yourself and care for yourself is you didn't make a promise to anybody that you weren't going to care for yourself and take care of yourself. 2, it's not unethical. It's not criminal to love yourself, care for yourself. It's not against your value system. No. Well, that's bad guilt. You got to let it go. Let it go. And because really, if you take care of I kind of figured, and my book was originally based on Love Yourself, Love Your Life, on realizing that if I didn't take care of myself and love myself, then how would I be there for my children? If I'm sick because I'm pushing myself all the time, or I'm unhappy or depressed and don't have energy that way, then I'm not going to be good for other people, my children. So part of, you have to take care of yourself. You can't feed anyone's thirst with an empty cup if you haven't got anything. You can't provide anything. So you're doing that for your children. If you take your time, mind, body, spirit, put on your schedule for the week, a couple hours a day if you can. It won't always happen when you're a parent. You might not even get one of those days done.
Sure.
But if you can mind, body, spirit, maybe carve out, put them on your calendar as appointments to yourself, caring for yourself, then you will be that happy person, that calm person, that healthy person to be there for your children. I had one client fairly recently. She got so overwhelmed, depressed that she had to go on short-term disability from work. She just couldn't function, just stay in the bed and cry. And one of the things she noticed is when she looked up at the whiteboard she had with all their different in their activities, she had 5 children. She has 5 children, and that up there was all these activities. They're different skating, they're different, doctors, they're different things all up there. And she wasn't up there at all. She wasn't even on there. She'd love to skate and do some physical stuff. And that exercise itself is so important. If you could at least get out 3 to 4 times a week for 45 minutes, that increases your serotonin, your positive mood neurotransmitter, so it's alleviating any depression, anxiety. It reduces and increases rather your endorphins, your natural painkillers, so your body's better, feeling better. And it reduces that lactic acid in your muscles, so your body's intense. You're not irritable with people. It does so much. But in my book, Chapter 8, The Whole Fulfilled Person, it talks a lot about this on all the different areas. And you kind of want to, in a well-rounded way, try to meet your needs in a well-rounded way and just put something on your calendar for an hour or two daily and stick to it so that you're feeling good and you have something to give.
Before we run out of time, I want to go back to what you just said. Good guilt, bad guilt.
Yes.
Never heard that before. Can you just define both of them?
Yes. And this actually comes, I think it's, Harriet Lemon, she wrote a book called The Dance of Anger, with anger kind of being a surface symptom, and then you go deeper. But guilt is kind of taking anger and putting it on yourself. So it's kind of anger, really. It's being angry with yourself. And I got that idea about the good guilt, bad guilt from that particular book. It was excellent to read, The Dance of Anger. But that it would be, good guilt is like, you have a good reason to that you're reminding yourself you don't want to do a certain activity. Like if you think, you think, I might, I'm at work, I'll take some of these pens and different things home. And then you go, wait a minute, I don't like stealing. I'm not going to steal. It's wrong. So that's a good guilt, kind of pricking your conscience. Or, you agreed to do something to somebody. You gave your word and then you're following through. That is that is good guilt. It's kind of stuff that reminds you of being a good person, that you want to stick to your values.
Basically, it sounds like for the greater good. So, like you agreed to help somebody do something, and now you think, I'm kind of tired tonight. I don't really want, but I told them I would do it.
Right.
That's the guilt coming because you should be doing, because you committed to it, whether you thought about it at the time or not. We all do it. And it'll make you a better person because you'll feel good that you helped somebody out and know that they care. They care that you care. Right.
Absolutely.
Love that. Never thought of it in that way, because a lot of times we think that guilt is always bad. It's always bad. What's the best way to find you? And if somebody wants to learn more about the books, or even a session with you to learn a little bit more, how do we do that?
Yeah. You can find me through Psychology Today, and that will get you just to go to Ann Creekmore. You click right into my website for my therapy practice, and also I'm getting another website up too, which should be up soon under a similar name, and you could find me that way too. But it should have my email and my different books, products, my hypnosis, MP3s and so on. Those, and
I would love to dig back to hypnosis. We haven't talked about that in a long time, and it's so bad. I mean, that was a game changer for me. That made a big difference.
Yes.
Always love talking with you, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Steve. Enjoyed it.
We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.